Roman roads were physical infrastructure vital to the maintenance and development of the Roman state, and were built from about 500 BC through the expansion and consolidation of the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire. They provided efficient means for the overland movement of armies, officials, and civilians, and the inland carriage of official communications and trade goods. Roman roads were of several kinds, ranging from small local roads to broad, long-distance highways built to connect cities, major towns and military bases. These major roads were often stone-paved and metalled, cambered for drainage, and were flanked by footpaths, bridleways and drainage ditches. They were laid along accurately surveyed courses, and some were cut through hills, or conducted over rivers and ravines on bridgework. Sections could be supported over marshy ground on rafted or piled foundations. At the peak of Rome's development, no fewer than 29 great military highways radiated from the capital, and the late empire's 113 provinces were interconnected by 372 great roads. The whole comprised more than 400,000 kilometers of roads, of which over 80,500 kilometers were stone-paved. In Gaul alone, no less than 21,000 kilometers of roadways are said to have been improved, and in Britain at least 4,000 kilometers. The courses of many Roman roads survive for millennia. Some are overlaid by modern roads. Roman systems. The extraordinary greatness of the Roman Empire manifests itself above all in three things: the aqueducts, the paved roads, and the construction of the drains. Dionysius of Halicarnassus, Ant. Rom. Unless these allusions are just simple anachronisms, the roads referred to were probably at the time little more than leveled earthen tracks. Thus, the Via Gabina is mentioned in about 500 BC, the Via Latina in about 490 BC, the Via Nomentana, or Via Ficulensis, in 449 BC, the Via Labicana in 421 BC, and the Via Salaria in 361 BC. With the exception of some outlying portions, such as Britain north of the Wall, Dacia, and certain provinces east of the Euphrates, the whole empire was penetrated by these itinera. There is hardly a district to which we might expect a Roman official to be sent, on service either civil or military, where we do not find roads. They reach the wall in Britain, run along the Rhine, the Danube, and the Euphrates, and cover, as with a network, the interior provinces of the empire. A road map of the empire reveals that it was generally laced with a dense network of prepared via. Beyond its borders there were no paved roads. However, it can be supposed that footpaths and dirt roads allowed some transport. There were, for instance, some pre-Roman ancient trackways in Britain, such as the Ridgeway and the Icknield Way. For specific roads, see Roman road locations below. Laws and traditions. The Law's 12 Tables, dated to approximately 450 BC, specified that a road shall be 8 feet wide where straight and 16 feet where curved. Actual practices varied from this standard. The tables command Romans to build roads and give wayfarers the right to pass over private land where the road is in disrepair. Building roads that would not need frequent repair therefore became an ideological objective, as well as building them as straight as possible in order to build the narrowest roads possible, and thus save on material. Roman law defined the right to use a road as a servitus, or claim. The ius iundi established a claim to use an iter, or footpath, across private land. The ius agendi, an actis, or carriage track. A via combined both types of servitutes, provided it was of the proper width, which was determined by an arbiter. The default width was the latitudo legitima of 8 feet. Roman law and tradition forbade the use of vehicles in urban areas, except in certain cases. Married women and government officials on business could ride. The Lex Lulia Municipalis restricted commercial carts to nighttime access to the city within the walls and within a mile outside the walls. Types. Roman roads varied from simple corduroy roads to paved roads using deep road beds of tamped rubble as an underlying layer to ensure that they kept dry, as the water would flow out from between the stones and fragments of rubble, instead of becoming mud in clay soils. According to Ulpian, there were three types of roads: via publici, consules praetoria or milites; via privatae, rustici, glaria or agraria; via vicinales, via publici, consules praetoria and milites. The first type of road included public high or main roads, constructed and maintained at the public expense, and with their soil vested in the state. Such roads led either to the sea, or to a town, or to a public river, or to another public road. Siculus Flaccus, who lived under Trajan, calls them via publici regalesque, and describes their characteristics as follows. They are placed under curators, and repaired by redemptors at the public expense, a fixed contribution, however, being levied from the neighboring landowners. These roads bear the names of their constructors. Roman roads were named after the censor who had ordered their construction or reconstruction. The same person often served afterwards as consul, but the road name is dated to his term as censor. If the road was older than the office of censor or was of unknown origin, it took the name of its destination or of the region through which it mainly passed. A road was renamed if the censor ordered major work on it, such as paving, repaving, or rerouting. With the term via regales compare the roads of the Persian kings and the King's Highway. With the term via militaria compare the Icknield Way. However, there were many other people, besides special officials, who from time to time, and for a variety of reasons, sought to connect their names with a great public service like that of the roads. Gaius Gracchus, when tribune of the people, paved or gravelled many of the public roads, and provided them with milestones and mounting blocks for riders. Again, Scribonius Curio, when tribune, sought popularity by introducing a lex viaria, under which he was to be chief inspector or commissioner for 5 years. Dio Cassius mentions as one of the forcible acts of the triumvirs of 43 BC, that they obliged the senators to repair the public roads at their own expense. Via privatae, rustici, glaria and agraria. The second category included private or country roads, originally constructed by private individuals, in whom their soil was vested, and who had the power to dedicate them to the public use. Such roads benefited from a right-of-way, in favor either of the public or of the owner of a particular estate. Under the heading of via privatae were also included roads leading from the public or high roads to particular estates or settlements. These Ulpian considers to be public roads themselves. Features of the via were connected to the via by via rustici, or secondary roads. Both main or secondary roads might either be paved, or left unpaved, with a gravel surface, as they were in North Africa. These prepared but unpaved roads were via glaria or sternindae. Beyond the secondary roads were the via terrani, dirt roads. Via vicinales. The third category comprised roads at or in villages, districts, or crossroads, leading through or towards a vicus or village. Such roads ran either into a high road, or into other via vicinales, without any direct communication with the high road. They were considered public or private, according to the fact of their original construction out of public or private funds or materials. Such a road, though privately constructed, became a public road when the memory of its private constructors had perished. Siculus Flaccus describes via vicinales as roads de publicisque divertent in agros a separado alteraes publicas pervenient. The repairing authorities, in this case, were the magistri pagorum or magistrates of the cantons. They could require the neighboring landowners either to furnish laborers for the general repair of the via vicinales, or to keep in repair, at their own expense, a certain length of road passing through their respective properties. Governance and financing. With the conquest of Italy, prepared Vie were extended from Rome and its vicinity to outlying municipalities, sometimes overlying earlier roads. Building Vie was a military responsibility and thus came under the jurisdiction of a consul. The process had a military name, via munera, as though the Vie were a fortification. Municipalities, however, were responsible for their own roads, which the Romans called via vicinales. The beauty and grandeur of the roads might tempt us to believe that any Roman citizen could use them for free, but this was not the case. Tolls abounded, especially at bridges. Often they were collected at the city gate. Freight costs were made heavier still by import and export taxes. These were only the charges for using the roads. Costs of services on the journey went up from there. Financing road building was a Roman government responsibility. Maintenance, however, was generally left to the province. The officials tasked with fundraising were the curators viarum, similar to a supervisor who manages and administers. They had a number of methods available to them. Private citizens with an interest in the road could be asked to contribute to its repair. High officials might distribute largesse to be used for roads. Censors, who were in charge of public morals and public works, were expected to fund repairs sua pecunia. Beyond those means, taxes were required. A via connected two cities. Via were generally centrally placed in the countryside. The construction and care of the public roads, whether in Rome, in Italy, or in the provinces, was, at all periods of Roman history, considered to be a function of the greatest weight and importance. This is clearly shown by the fact that the censors, in some respects the most venerable of Roman magistrates, had the earliest paramount authority to construct and repair all roads and streets. Indeed, all the various functionaries, not excluding the emperors themselves, who succeeded the censors in this portion of their duties, may be said to have exercised a devolved censorial jurisdiction. Costs and civic responsibilities. That evolution to the censorial jurisdiction soon became a practical necessity, resulting from the growth of the Roman dominions and the diverse labors which detained the censors in the capital city. Certain ad hoc official bodies successively acted as constructing and repairing authorities. In Italy, the censorial responsibility passed to the commanders of the Roman armies, and later to special commissioners, and in some cases perhaps to the local magistrates. In the provinces, the consul or praetor and his legates received authority to deal directly with the contractor. The care of the streets and roads within the Roman territory was committed in the earliest times to the censors. They eventually made contracts for paving the street inside Rome, including the Clivus Capitolinus, with lava, and for laying down the roads outside the city with gravel. Sidewalks were also provided. The aediles, probably by virtue of their responsibility for the freedom of traffic and policing the streets, cooperated with the censors and the bodies that succeeded them. It would seem that in the reign of Claudius the quaestors had become responsible for the paving of the streets of Rome, or at least shared that responsibility with the quaestori viarum. It has been suggested that the quaestors were obliged to buy their right to an official career by personal outlay on the streets. There was certainly no lack of precedents for this enforced liberality, and the change made by Claudius may have been a mere change in the nature of the expenditure imposed on the quaestors. Official bodies. The official bodies which first succeeded the censors in the care of the streets and roads were two in number. They were quatuorviri viis in urbe purgandis, with jurisdiction inside the walls of Rome; duoviri viis extra urbum purgandis, with jurisdiction outside the walls. Both these bodies were probably of ancient origin, but the true year of their institution is unknown. Little reliance can be placed on Pomponius, who states that the quaestori were instituted eodem tempore as the praetor peregrinus and the decemviri latibus illudicandis. The first mention of either body occurs in the Lex Julia Municipalis of 45 BC. The Quauorviri were afterwards called Quauorviri viarum curandarum. The extent of jurisdiction of the Duoviri is derived from their full title as Duoviri viis extra propius verbum Romam passus mil purgandis. Their authority extended over all roads between their respective gates of issue in the city wall and the first milestone beyond. In case of an emergency in the condition of a particular road, men of influence and liberality were appointed, or voluntarily acted, as curators or temporary commissioners to superintend the work of repair. The dignity attached to such a curatorship is attested by a passage of Cicero. Among those who performed this duty in connection with particular roads was Julius Caesar, who became curator of the Via Appia, and spent his own money liberally upon it. Certain persons appear also to have acted alone and taken responsibility for certain roads. In the country districts, as has been stated, the magistri pagorum had authority to maintain the via vicinales. In Rome itself, each householder was legally responsible for the repairs to that portion of the street which passed his own house. It was the duty of the aediler to enforce this responsibility. The portion of any street which passed a temple or public building was repaired by the aediler at the public expense. When a street passed between a public building or temple and a private house, the public treasury and the private owner shared the expense equally. No doubt, if only to secure uniformity. The personal liability of householders to execute repairs of the streets was commuted for a paving rate payable to the public authorities who were responsible from time to time. Augustus changes the governing structure was changed by Augustus. In the course of his reconstitution of the urban administration, he created new offices in connection with the public works, streets, and aqueducts of Rome. He found the Quauorviri and Duoviri forming part of the body of magistrates known as Vigenti Sequiri. These he reduced to 20 members, but retained the Quauorviri among them. The latter were certainly still in existence under Hadrian. Augustus abolished the Duoviri, no doubt because the time had come to deal comprehensively with the superintendence of the roads which connected Rome with Italy and the provinces. Dio Cassius relates that Augustus personally accepted the post of superintendent. In this capacity he represented the paramount authority which belonged originally to the censors. Moreover, he appointed men of praetorian rank to be road makers, assigning to each of them 2 lictors. Lastly, he made the office of curator of each of the great public roads a perpetual magistracy, instead of a special and temporary commission, as had been the case hitherto. In Augustus' capacity as supreme head of the public road system, he converted the temporary cura of each of the great roads into a permanent magistracy. The persons appointed under the new system were of senatorial or equestrian rank, according to the relative importance of the roads respectively assigned to them. It was the duty of each curator to issue contracts for the maintenance and repairs of his road, and to see that the contractor who undertook the work performed it faithfully, both as to quantity and quality. Moreover, he authorized the construction of sewers and removed obstructions to traffic, as the aediler did in Rome. It was in the character of an imperial curator, though probably of one armed with extraordinary powers, that Corbulo denounced the magistratus and mancipes of the Italian roads to Tiberius. He pursued them and their families with fines and imprisonment for 18 years, and was rewarded with a consulship by Caligula, who was himself in the habit of condemning well-born citizens to work on the roads. It is noticeable that Claudius brought Corbulo to justice, and repaid the money which had been extorted from his victims. Other curators, special curators for a term, seem to have been appointed on occasion, even after the institution of the permanent magistrates bearing that title. The emperors who succeeded Augustus exercised a vigilant control over the condition of the public highways. Their names occur frequently in the inscriptions to restorers of roads and bridges. Thus, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, Trajan, and Septimius Severus were commemorated in this capacity at Emerita. The Itinerary of Antoninus, which was probably a work of much earlier date, republished in an improved and enlarged form, under one of the Antonine emperors, remains as standing evidence of the minute care which was bestowed on the service of the public roads.